You'd never guess that would be Buskers. We were doing a stately home a fortnight ago, and then, like, anybody who was like walking past would just kept sort of following them. And it's surprising how long you can follow somebody without them noticing. There's a guitarist. There's a guitarist and a banjo player behind them. So here we go. Okay, here we go. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the fireside with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. It's you. The children were nestled snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their head. And Mamma in a kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew in a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. Now the moon on the crest of the new fallen snow cast the lustre of midday on the objects below, when what to my wondering eyes did appear but a miniature sledge and 8 tiny reindeer. The little old driver, so nimble, so quick, I knew in an instant it must be St. Nick. His coursers like eagles, so swiftly they came, he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer, now Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the hall, dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, take to the sky. So up to the top of the rooftop they flew, with a sledge full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in an instant, up on the roof, I heard the prancing and dancing of each tiny hoof. As I withdrew my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot. His clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had on his back. He looked just like a peddler carrying his pack. His eyes, how they sparkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. Without saying a word, he went to his work, and he filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose, with a nod of his head, up the chimney he rose. He leapt to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and I saw him fly away like the down of a thistle, and I heard him exclaim, ere he went out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Thanks very much. I'll play, as you can hear, we're sort of from Newcastle, and where we come from, there's lots and lots of hornpipes. Although the average Geordie wouldn't know a hornpipe from a drain pipe. What's one of them like? But I'll play you lovely an Irish hornpipe, and then I'll play you a reel after that, or two.
it's such a privilege to play alongside Tom. We do spend a lot of time like, working with young children as well. The other day, a little lad looked at him and said, like, "Why'd you play it with that stick?" Quite good. And the children also like, "Look, what was it they called the strings on it? I can't remember what this is. Something like the rope. What do you call these things? Oh, that's the rope. Very good." My favourite was the other day, like a child said to me, he said, like, "How old are you?" And I said, "How old do you think I am?" And I said, "Well, I was born the year that the Queen was crowned." And he looked and he said, "That's nearly dead."
When Tony said, where do you think we're from? And we were in Yorkshire at the time, and one lad said, "Keighley."
Well, actually, we could fill you with anecdotes like this, because we've been very busy. But the best one, I said, we come from the same place as Ant and Dec. And this boy looked and said, "Oh, Australia." Anyway, we could fill the evening with anecdotes like this. What we're going to do is we're going to tell you a story that comes from Russia. And this is a Russian story called Babushka. Babushka was a woman, and she had a house by the edge of the village, and everyone knew that she kept it cleaner than anyone else. She was proud of the fact that she had been a mother and a grandmother, and she had the finest house in the village. And everyone would speak about how clean her house was. She would clean and polish and sweep and clean the windows. But one night, as she sat by the side of a fire, everyone shouted, "Babushka, Babushka, Babushka! You must look, for now there were goose feathers coming down from the sky, but in amongst them all there is a star." Now Babushka knew that if she went outside, with all the snow upon the ground, it would bring dirt and water back into her house. So she went to a window and she looked, and sure enough she could see the star. But what caused her to look the hardest was the fact that the windows were dirty. And she started to polish and clean them, and she looked. And everyone said, "Babushka, Babushka, Babushka! You must look and see the star for yourself." But she would not go out. And she stayed inside, and she cleaned her house, and she sat herself down by the side of a fire. And her eyes became heavy. And everyone was shouting about the star in the sky, but she slept by the embers of the fire. And as she was asleep, 3 great loud knocks came upon the door. 1 and 2 and 3. Do you know, I never expected you to do that, but thank you very much. And they looked, and 3 great knocks came upon the door. 1 and 2 and 3. And she was angry, for she'd been walking in the darkness of the night. And she stirred herself, and she went to a door. And she was going to give whoever it was outside of that door a piece of her mind for waking her, Babushka, in the middle of the night. And as she opened up the door, now we like squeaky doors, ready? As she opened up the door, 15 years in the Royal Academy of Music, and that's the back. And as she opened up the door, there she could not believe her eyes, because there she saw not 1, not 2, but 3 kings, tall and strong and straight, and one of them had skin that was as beautiful and as black and as velvety as the night. And the 3 of them with their dark voices said, "Babushka, Babushka, Babushka. We have travelled far to come to this place. We have followed a star that is in the sky, and we have come to this place for we seek a baby that will be a king, and he shall be born in a stable." Babushka looked. She was still angry from being woken up, but she looked, and she thought, "A baby that will be born in a stable that will be a king." And they said, "Babushka, we would wish to stay inside of your house, for your house is the best in all of the village." And any part of her that still had anger coursing through it fell away from her. "Oh, your majesties, you are welcome inside of my house, to come and sit down by my fire, to eat at my table. You are welcome inside of my house." She could not believe it. For never in 100 lifetimes would she have dreamt that 3 kings would be sitting down by the side of her fire, and there they ate the finest of foods and drank, and they slept in beds inside of a house. Babushka was proud. 3 kings inside of my house. But the next morning, with the snow still upon the ground, the 3 kings spoke to her and said, Babushka, would you wish to come with us to find a baby that will be born in a stable, who will grow to be a king? And Babushka looked, and all she could see on the ground were the snow stains upon the ground. And the beds needed making, and the dishes needed washing, and the food needed to be put away. And she spoke and she said, no, I will stay in my home, for I am just a woman, and I have nothing that I could give to a baby king. The 3 kings, well, they had smiles upon their lips, and they bade her goodbye. But as she washed up the dishes and cleaned up the windows and swept the floor and cleaned the sheets and cleaned the house, she thought, I would truly wish to see a baby king born in a stable. But what can I give to him? And I've told you already, she was a mother and she had children of her own, and all of the toys that she'd had for her own children were still at the top of the house, and up she climbed. And there she took all of the old wooden toys. She washed them, cleaned them, painted them, stitched them and sewed them. And soon she had a pack and a sack at her back that was filled with toys and clothes and scarves and hats. And she closed her door and she started to walk. And as she looked at the footprints there in the snow, as she walked, she asked everyone. She said, do you know where there will be a baby king born in a stable? And everyone looked at her as if she were a fool. But when the moon hung in the sky like a great silvered coin, she came to where there was a square field. And in that field there were sheep. And where there are sheep, there is a shepherd boy. He had no coat upon his back. He was standing, shivering in the corner of that place. And Babushka did not wait for us the time it would take to sigh, for she took a scarf from out of the pack and a sack and a bag and a hat and a coat. She did not give them to the boy. She placed them at the side of the field and she laid them there and she watched. And as she watched, she saw that the shepherd boy picked up the scarf and put it about his neck. And a small, thin, red smile came upon his lips. And he put on the coat and the hat, and here he danced amongst all of the sheep, seeing all his finery, how beautifully dressed he was, and how the cold could not scratch at his skin. And Babushka smiled to herself. And as she walked on, she saw that there was a girl who had no toys in all of this world. I said she had no toys in all of this world. I'm so pleased we aren't carol singing. She saw a girl who had no toys in all of this world, and Babushka did not wait for the time that it takes to wink or blink. And she reached, and here she did not give this toy to the child in her hands, but she laid it by the side of a window. And as she travelled this way and that, she found children, if they had been good, and they had nothing in this world, she would reach into the sack at her back, and she would not place it in their hands, but leave it by their doors and their windows for them to find. And now in Russia, children do not wait for Santa Claus to come, but on a Christmas Eve, as the snow falls down, they will whisper as they fall asleep, It is such a pleasure sort of telling stories to you, but as well as being an absolutely ace violin player, he is a singer as well. So Tom's going to sing you a Christmassy song. this is another one of those that people know the first bit of, but we'll teach you the chorus, and then you can join in. Actually, no. We'll teach you the chorus, and you will join in. As you can see, you can't get past us, okay? The door's locked, we know where you live, and if you don't join in, we follow you home, move in next door, and we make this racket all day long. Is that a promise? I've got to tell you, the funniest thing is that people wind up saying, like, oh, I love the banjo. And I said, you should ask my neighbours, because they always bang on the wall for just one more, usually about 12 o'clock at night.
I'll just tell you a quick story. People do terrible things to musicians, and I was playing at the club in Scotland recently. There was a man on the weekend, a week before, called Eddie Walker, and he was going to demonstrate to the audience. He was going to show these Scottish people how somebody from Teesside plays a guitar, and he was going to play the Maple Leaf Rag on the guitar blindfolded. So they said, aye, okay, we'll put the blindfold on you, Eddie, and they put the blindfold on, and as he started to play, they left. And that's what you get for showing off.
Play the guitar with the blindfold on.
That's good.
You've just got it.
It's slow, you know. I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
And we think was in those ships, was in those ships, was in those ships. What do you think was in those ships on Christmas Day in the morning? I saw
3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
Jesus Christ was in all ships, was in all ships, was in all ships. Jesus Christ was in all ships on Christmas Day in the morning.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
I know for our sins, oh for our sins. I know for our sins, now it's Christmas Day in the morning.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. Saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
Come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. I
Saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw 3 ships come sailing in, come sailing in, come sailing in. Saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. Well sung. All of these different stories, they come from different places, and I love this one. This is a Romany story, comes from Ireland. This one's called The Dog and the Peacock. Now the dog lived by itself. under a bridge by the side of a river, and everyone in the village said that the dog was theirs. They would say, "My dog, oh my dog, come inside of my house." For all it had to do was scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch, scritch upon the door, and the doors would be open, and that dog would be given food. But one morning, it could not believe its size, because as it started to breathe, its breath was like steam in the air, rising higher and higher. It was cold upon its fur, and as it padded and pawed and clawed its way along the road, it saw all of the ground was blanketed in snow, and everyone who was walking was talking about how they were celebrating a baby. Now the dog thought it could smell fine food in the air, and everyone was carrying fine things to go and see the people inside of the village, and it went to the first door, and it scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch, scritched upon the door, and the door remained shut. The dog couldn't believe it, because the dog could smell the fine food inside, could hear all of the people still dancing and singing and laughing, and it pulled itself up, and as it looked in through the window, it looked and it could see there was a great table covered with food. In fact, the table was groaning under the weight, and there was a fine fire at the back. But the dog licked at his lips and went to the next door, and he scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch, scritched upon the door, and the door stayed shut. But this time, the dog pulled itself up, and it looked into the window, and again there was a fire burning. People were dancing inside of the house, and it looked at all of the food that it was not going to get any of, but it couldn't stop itself from laughing, because when the dog looked inside of the house, it could see that inside of the house there was a tree, and the dog looked. A tree! A tree inside of a house!
Yes, a tree!
A tree inside of the house! And the tree was covered with candles and baubles and stars. And every house it came to, the door remained shut. But it looked, and each one had a tree inside a tree, inside of a house, thought the dog to itself. And each one had at its top an angel. And now it was starting to feel hungry. And as it went further through the town, it came to the very last house. And in there was an old woman. And inside of this house there was no great fire burning. Inside of this house there was no smell of a table that was covered all over with food. And as it scritched upon the door opened up, and the woman looked and she said, "Oh, my dog, you're welcome inside of my house." And the dog looked, and he could see no great fire, no tree in the corner, no heavy table covered with food, but the woman did not wait. She started to cut at a small plate, and everything she had she cut in half and put it into a bowl for the dog. The dog was hungry, and it did not wait. It grasped at the food, it gobbled at the food, and the old woman looked. "Oh, my friend dog, you are a good dog, my friend in all of this world." And the old woman sat down, and it was only then that the dog started to feel guilty. For this woman who had so little had given so much, no friends by her fireside, and the dog felt guilty. And the dog slunk out of the door, and crept and crawled and slipped and slithered right through the town, and who should it meet but the proud peacock. And the peacock was there, and he said, "Oh, friend dog, why do you look so sad?" And the dog told of how it had tried to get into each house, and it was only the old woman who had given so much when she had so little. And here the peacock smiled, as well as a peacock can. And the peacock smiled and said, "My master, the butcher, he has lots of coal, he has lots of sticks, and he has sausages, and I shall go and fetch some for the old woman." And the peacock, proud as it was, with a smile upon its beak, went inside of the butcher's shop and took some sticks and placed them under its wing, took some coal and placed it under its other wing. And the sausages, well, it held them in its beak, and the dog looked and he did not wait. He tied them about his neck as if it were a tie. Now, if anyone had looked out of their window, which they didn't, because they were so busy with all of their friends, if they'd looked out of the window, they would have seen a peacock with sticks and coal underneath its wings, and a dog with a necktie that was made out of sausages. But nobody looked. And on they went, and who should they meet but the cat? And the cat looked. Saw the cat. It's not Tweety Pie. And the cat looked and said, "Friend." said, "Oh, friend dog and friend peacock, and why do you have these sausages about your neck?" And they told of the old woman, and here the cat smiled. Now it's got lips in the cat. And it smiled and went inside of the house and came out with a scarf that was made of tinned fish. And if anyone had looked out of their window, they would have seen a proud peacock with sticks and coal underneath its wings, and a dog with a tie that was made out of sausages, and a cat with a scarf of fish. And up in the tree there was an owl. Go on, do an owl. There was an owl, and the owl looked and said, "Oh, friend dog and cat and peacock, please tell me why you look so ridiculous." Because he could do a cat voice. And I've got to tell you that it flew down, and they told of the old woman, and the owl walked upon the dog's back, and the cat by the side, and the peacock, and they all walked till they came to the old woman's house, and they creaked open the door and went inside, and the peacock dropped down the sticks and dropped down the coal, and the cat took a pan and cooked the sausages and the fish, and there was such a fine smell, and the sparkle and crackle of all of the fire lit up the room, and the old woman, she could not help but notice the smell of the food, and she opened her eyes, and as she started to open her eyes and get used to the light, the peacock didn't wait and opened up his wings. Now his wings covered all over with green and blue, and she looked, she said, "Oh, friend dog, you have brought me a Christmas tree." And here, as the cat went this way and that, and it looked and it moved, its eyes sparkled like candles upon it. She said, "Oh, friend dog, you have brought me candles upon this Christmas tree." And the owl flew to the top and stood there, spread out his wings, and with his round eyes she said, "Oh, friend dog, you have brought me an angel at the top of the tree." And here, she did not hesitate. She took the sausages and the fish, and she placed them upon plates, and she sat them all down at that table. And from that time, at Christmas time, she was never left inside of the house by herself, for everyone would wish to hear the story of the dog and the proud peacock. Well, you have been absolutely fantastic. It's been such a pleasure sort of working with you here. We're going to do like one more story and then a song at the end. This is one of my stories. I do write a lot of stories, and this is a story which is called The Box of Dreams, and you've never heard this one. Because we don't often, like I said, the majority of the work that we've been doing has been with like young children, so we don't get a chance to do these like older stories, which is fantastic for us. But you all know me, and you know that I could never look you in the eyes and lie to you. So this story is true. It's as true as these 5 fingers on my left hand. You're going to have to be much quicker than this. Now, it was the night before Christmas. And seeing as how it was getting close to Christmas, I knew that it was about time that I bought some Christmas presents. And when I say some Christmas presents, I mean all of the Christmas presents. Because things had been tough in the Wilson household. Much sadder than that. But I've got to tell you this. Now, where I live is in South Shields, which is above the river and by the side of the sea. And there are 2 different ways you can get to the marketplace. You can either go through the King Street, which is so full of people, or you can go down by the side of the river. And by the side of the river, they do a lot of work there. They're trying to build all of these new houses. Each one has got hot and cold running water rats, but that's just an extra bonus. They are des res. And I'll tell you this, as I was going down, I knew that that was the way that I had to go. It is a building site, and there was a big sign which said, "Do not go past." And I knew that that was the way that I would have to go, down by the side of the river. And as I was getting closer and closer to the marketplace, now, I've lived there for a long time, and as I looked, I could see that there was a stall at the back of all of the other stalls. Now, I've lived there for a long time, and it was lit. Now, it wasn't lit by electric light, it wasn't lit by torchlight, it was lit by candles that were held in jars, and they were suspended on the side of this stall. And as I looked, I could see that there was an old man. And above it, it had a sign. It said, "Mickey's Dreams. We sell sleep, dreams and lies. Established on the 30th of the 2nd, 89. Okay. And he looked, and I could see this man, he was standing there, and he was taking old envelopes. And as he was looking at them, he was winking and counting. Now, I know he was just a man, but he was trying to do 2 things at once. And he was winking and counting, and as he looked, he was going 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 weeks. Sleep well, dream well. And he closed them up, and he took another envelope, and he winked, and he was counting, and I looked, and I said, "Old man, what are you doing?" And he looked at me and said, "Well, what do you think I'm doing? I'm making up a parcel of sleep for a snorer in Vancouver." As if it was the most natural thing in all of this world. But he was angry, and he'd shouted at me, and I don't need to go down there to be shouted at. I've got lots of other places that can be shouted at. And I started to turn and go away, and he knew that he had spoken too loudly and too harshly. And he said, "Young man," and I quite like that. You're not supposed to laugh quite so loud. He said, "Young man, come here. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be quite so mean and rude. Here, have one of these." And here he took a packet, an old brown paper packet. It looked as if it had some kind of inky scroll on the top, and I reached inside and I picked out what looked like a cake, and I bit into it. And as I bit into it, I started to feel as if the world was moving around me, and I looked, and it was then that I could read, and it said, six deep-filled minced lies. Gets much worse. I've got to tell you this. And he looked, and then he started to take a piece of card, and he folded it, and he made it into a box. And as he made it into a box, he started to wink and to count. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. And he closed it, sleep well, dream well. And he put the box onto his stall, and it was then that I noticed that the whole of the stall was covered in boxes. Big boxes, small boxes, wide boxes, long boxes, all made of different things. And there was one that was made out of golden filigree. And I looked at it, and I reached towards it, and he said, "That is a box that is filled with good dreams." There was nothing inside, and there was another box that was twisted and looked as if it was made out of old orange boxes. And one corner had a piece of torn wallpaper, as if it had been thrown and smashed against a wall. And he said, "That is a box that is filled with broken dreams." And then there was one that was cold to the touch, and it sounded like the sea inside of it. And he said, "That is a box that is filled with dreams that a young boy had when he was looking at his teacher's legs when he should have been singing in the choir." And I blushed. And there was another box that was made out of glass, and it was held on a silver hook on a golden thread, and it swayed in the breeze this way and that. And he said, "That is a box that is filled with dreams of falling and flying." Now, I don't know about you, but I've had many dreams about falling and flying. and I had not bought any Christmas presents. And I thought that perhaps I could buy these for what they were made out of. Well, perhaps it could be that I would be able to buy one. And then he looked at me from the top of my head to the tips of my toes, and he shook his head and said, "No, these are not for the likes of you. You've got to be clever, you've got to be strong, and you aren't good enough, strong enough, or clever enough to buy one of these boxes." Who was he to tell me that I wasn't strong enough or clever enough? And here, he had a small smile on his face, and he took another piece of card and started to fold it to make a box. And it looked as if he was not looking at me, but he winked and counted, and I thought, you can't tell me this. And there was one small box, no longer than your finger, made out of cardboard at the side of that place, and I reached down and I took it and I thrust it inside of my coat. And this is the truth, I have never stolen anything. And I started to run, and as I ran, I couldn't stop, my cheeks burning bright red, and as I ran further and further, I had to stop because I couldn't take this from him. And I turned around and went back, and as I went back to give this box, there was no stall, no old man, no boxes, no Mickey's dreams, nothing at all. And I might not be the strongest or the cleverest or the wisest, but it wasn't until last night that I opened that box. And when I opened up the box, I'm sure I heard, "Sleep well, dream well." And there was a dream inside of that box, that there'd be two curly-haired men who live in the northeast of England, sitting talking to a group of gorgeous people, telling them stories in the dark. So as you can see, that story is true. It's as true as these two blue eyes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please let me sleep. Well, we will finish with something. This is a Christmas music hall song which has got actions in it. So everybody do this with me. It goes, "Please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight." Don't ignore me, I know where you're So please, don't look so worried. "Please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight. I'm homeless and cold, and the snow's falling white. The fire through your keyhole looks cosy and bright, so please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight." Could you just come and help me, please? I'll teach you not to join in. Right. Well, I don't want you to look ridiculous, so I want you to look a bit more sort of like in tune with sort of Christmas. So here we go. There you go. That's it, there you go. So try it with me. You ready? Here we go. Please, don't pretend you can't hear. So please, do it. "Please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight. I'm homeless and cold, and the snow's falling white. The fire through your keyhole looks cosy and bright, so please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight." Well done you. Okay, so it was Christmas Eve at midnight, and a tramp with haggard face was knocking at the door of a rich millionaire's palace. The rich man in pyjamas, have you seen the drummer? The rich man in pyjamas with golden costly spurs says, "What are you a-wanting of?" The tramp replied, "Dear sir," on your own. "Oh," everybody should be doing this. "Oh, please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight. I'm homeless and cold, and the snow's falling white. The fire through your keyhole looks cozy and bright, so please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight." The rich man called a constable and said, "Remove this man." He shone his torch and he cried out, "Why, it's my brother Bill." But like EastEnders, for the plot. "You want to sleep on my doorstep, oh you my brother friend? You shall sleep on my doorstep. I didn't know you when you said, give it a try. Oh, ready, follow me. Please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight. I'm homeless and cold." Keep up. cozy and bright. So please let me sleep on your doorstep tonight. The rich man caught pneumonia through standing in the cold. And soon went off to heaven for to claim his piece of gold. The angel to the rich man said, you can't come in, oh no. The rich man said, is it so late? And therefore I'll be alone. Now up until now, you've been singing disastrously in tune. And you do the last one out of tune. Ready? Oh! Cheers. Thank you. I don't know what I'm doing. Do I do anything else? Do you want to sing a song? Let's have a look. I've done everything I know. Jingle bells, jingle. What about some jigs's? Thank you so much. We've had a great night. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.